close out this convocation. This is year number 3 of doing this. And I have to really think about belief. I talk a lot about, do we believe? Do we have the ability to come together and work as a community to do the things that we need to do to take this district to a place that it has not been in a long time? Do we have that level of self-efficacy that not only resides within us, but that we can impart on the students that we serve? And most importantly, do we believe that with hope and accountability, that our kids will be able to thrive in a very, very competitive world that too many times do not have them in mind? And I want you all to know that I do believe. And what I want to be able to do today is give you a brief overview of the work that you all have done in these 2 years. I want you to know that it has been extremely phenomenal. The narrative has changed about our school district, the type of people we are able to attract, the talent we're attracting. But most importantly, it starts with our Board of Education, because many of you who've been here for decades know that there is a very difficult history with our Board of Directors. And I think I was very fortunate as a brand new superintendent to come into a school district where we had 9 people whose hearts were genuinely in the right spot. They want to do what's right for children. They have personal investments in terms of family members and relatives that have benefited from this school system or are actually attending the school system right now. So we have this level of consistency. And one of the things I want to thank you all for is that you guys have pretty much given me everything that I have asked for in order for us to properly educate the children in this school district. We have asked them to help us with staffing for additional counselors. They gave it to us. We asked them for registrars for our secondary schools because our secondary schools did not have registrars. You gave us that. We asked you to allow for us to staff our schools differently so we can apply an equity lens and we can provide assistant principals at some of our elementary schools where principals really needed that additional support so that they can help work with their teachers. You allowed for us to staff social workers so we don't have one social worker working in 12 schools, but the ratio now is 3 to 4. You have allowed for us to spend into our fund balance so that our teachers can get the professional development that they deserve, so they are fully equipped to properly educate our children. And I want our teachers to know, we had only reserved 375 slots for that summer institute. And we had well over 500 teachers who attended. That's over 50% of our teaching workforce. So I want to thank you for that. I also want you to know that because of the work that we've done in the narrative and how it has changed, we've been able to produce 2 sitting superintendents 2 years in a row that have left the Kansas City Public School District, and they're having a larger impact. And I want to say that I'm extremely proud of that because 2 things that I believe a superintendent should be held accountable for is, 1, his or her impact on the particular system that he or she serves and making sure that it is a better system than it was before they ever set foot on in that system. And secondly, how many people are you developing and producing that are going to be able to go on and have a larger impact, right? I think we have to do that. And I have to say this to you administrators, those who are building principals, it's your responsibility to do the same for your educators. There are some people in here, they want to be career teachers, and that's absolutely fine. But then there are some who want to become administrators, and it's our job to develop them, create the pipeline, so that whenever we need to put people in new positions, and we can have a solid succession plan in place. So you owe that to the people that you work with. Grow them to a level that we will never have a deficit with the type of administrators we want in this school district and people who have a contextual knowledge for this school system. So that's very critical for me. Here's the other piece. When we talk about narrative, Dr. Slade is one of our new assistant superintendents, and he's from the DC public schools. And when he was making a decision as to whether or not he wanted to apply for the job, he said he conducted his research. He looked online. He said he couldn't find a negative story about our school district. And he thought that was pretty weird. And what I told him was, it may be weird, but what we've done is we've controlled the narrative. We've sat down with the editorial board. We told those people on the Kansas City Star editorial board, you have to use context when you write about our school district. Because if you don't understand what we're living through, it's not fair to compare us to another school district. And what I want you all to know is, here's the deal. We're going to be treated as thought partners in this city. Too long, people have made decisions on what they were going to do to us, how they want to spend their money in our school system, who they're going to put in our schools, and when things don't work out the way that they're supposed to, we get the blame for some initiatives that had nothing to do with the direction the school district was going in. And so I want you to know that we've told people KCPS will be treated as a thought partner moving forward. But with all of that, I shared this with teachers at Southeast one of the mornings that I spoke. And I said to the teachers this summer, here's what I've learned in 2 years of being a superintendent in this city. One, people are very fragile. People have been hurt over and over and over. They get their hope up, and the second they start to lower their guards and believe that we're going to be in the same direction, something happens. Superintendent bails out, the board changes, those things that don't allow for us to have consistency. We keep having changes with principals. We've had 3 principal vacancies this year. That's it. And I want you to know that we wanted to make sure that we could bring back and have a stable leadership team on your campuses so we can continue the momentum that we have. Our school district right now has progressed in how we're performing in math, English. Our graduation rates are 10% higher than they were in 2015. We've created some phenomenal programs. We have a middle college that started. This middle college services children, young adults ages 17 to 24 that have dropped out of school. And you won't believe this. We've probably graduated 17 or 18 already, and we started this program in March. But here's what you won't believe, everybody. Some of these youngsters dropped out, and they only needed 1 credit. Think about that. And what they said was, because I asked them, what happened? After I gave them their diplomas and we talked. And one kid said, I just ran into some hard times, and there was no way that I could go back to my home school because of the embarrassment factor. Because I should have graduated a year ago. I don't want to go back there. And then the other piece is, Dr. Bedell, I'm a young adult. I'm living the life of having control over my own schedule. I don't want to come back into an environment and be in an environment from 7:20 until 2:20. That's not my life anymore. So we said, let's do this partnership with MCC, Penn Valley. Let's put them and give them the same rights that a young college student has, and give them the rights and privileges, give them the support. And many of these kids came in, they took the high set assessment. Very smart kids, they just ran into tough times. And we have a waiting list of students that want to get into that program. And here's the most important part, because I want you all to know, I care about kids. I don't care if they came from a charter. I don't care if they came from a parochial school. I don't care if they dropped out of our school system. We have graduated several kids that dropped out of charters. If they live within our boundaries and they want to get their degree, KCPS will be there for them. Our Ed Foundation has taken off. We have received a tremendous amount of grants, well over $1 million. Nicole Collier-White has done a phenomenal job with our Education Foundation, and I want to thank her and I want to thank her board for the work that they're doing to help secure the funding that we need to continue to do the work in this school district. So apply for those grants. They're available for you, and there are some projects that you have. You have an opportunity to knock those projects out. So now, as we get ready to close out, I want to talk a little bit to you about what is all in. And all in means that we work as a community. We are one community, we are one unit. Because we are beginning to have some success in this school district, we are a threat, everybody. Listen to me when I say this. We are a threat. Because when you start doing well, you don't necessarily have to depend on outside sources to come in and tell you how you need to conduct schooling. Now you're starting to compromise some livelihoods of folks. Because when you then can hire internally and have your own people, and you don't have to do as much consulting, or you don't have to say, I don't need your services because we've hired strong professionals who already have capacity to do this work at the level, that's a problem. And let me tell you, here's what I believe in the 2 years that I've been here. I think people do not want to see our kids in this school district do well because they profit more off of our failure. And what I want you to know is that, as we talked about last year, we are built for this, but in order for us to continue to build on our theme from last year, we all have to be all in. We have to be one unit. If one person in here decides to go out and talk bad about the school district, that spreads a lot faster than somebody going out and saying something positive about the school district. This is your place of employment, right? We want you to be able to be courageous enough to speak your truth to those you work with and those who supervise you. We want you to feel that your thoughts matter and that you are a thought partner within your respective sites. So before you go out and you speak negatively of our system, take care of it inside of your house and keep your business inside of your house, because the second somebody infiltrates and they begin to see that we're not together, we're not one community of 2,200 employees and 9 board of directors, we have problems, folks, because the forces are out there. And all you got to do is just open your eyes and see what's happening in this city. It's not hard. But we are going to stay together. We're going to operate with a sense of urgency. I heard the new KCK superintendent had his convocation yesterday, and he happens to be a gentleman that I worked with when I was in Houston for a little while. And he said, there was a tweet that went out, and the tweet said, moving forward with urgency. I think everybody has to understand that we have to continue to be urgent. I was talking to the kids that came out from the ROTC from East High School. And I said, who's a senior? One kid said, I'm a senior. Another one said, I'm a junior. I said, how fast did those years go by? They said, man, we feel like we just started off as a freshman. We cannot believe that we're already juniors and seniors. We don't have a lot of time with these kids, folks. Right? The kids have a shelf life with us. Generally, it's 13 years, 14 years, depending on circumstances. But their shelf life is very short. So if we don't work with urgency, and what I mean by that is, let's be intentional. Let's not act in haste and do things that are disjointed and not organized, because that hurts our kids. So we want to work with urgency, but we also want to have a high level of excitement. Dr. Shepard talked about it. How we portray ourselves to these kids changes the trajectory in their lives. For many of us that are in here, and I know for me, if it wasn't for some positive teachers, I am not here today having this conversation with you. Speak words of affirmation into our kids. Give them this can-do mentality. Have fun. That's why we did that intramural day. It was fun. And guess what? Teachers left that intramural day, and some of them went and they had happy hour. I'm talking about different schools. And they formed relationships. That's what we want. We want to be excited about the work we do. We know that this work is hard. Those 180 days it is not a joke at all. And so we want to have fun. So we got a kickball day coming up. I think we're organizing that, and we want to, we want to get together and compete against each other. Then afterwards, you guys go out and break bread and have a good time. And everybody don't hang out, but get to know the people, get to know each other, man. Have fun. Don't be afraid to take risks. See, I don't like working with scary people. I told the board this a few months ago. I told them, I said, I didn't come here to play it safe. Y'all remember that executive session? I didn't come here to perpetuate the same status quo, to do the things the same way that haven't done much for our kids. So I'm going to make mistakes as a superintendent. And it's okay to make mistakes, everybody. It's not okay to keep making the same ones over and over, but you're going to make mistakes. And we want our people to be risk takers. We want to think outside the box, and we want to try to do things differently, because that's the only way we are going to take this district to a new place. And so we want you to do that. We want you to be calculated. We want you to talk with your administrators. We don't want renegades, right? We still have policies and procedures that have to be followed, and we need to adhere to those, because you can be a risk taker, and that risk might cost you your life. So we don't want to do that. So let's make sure that we're calculated with it. But I want you all to know that under my leadership, it's okay to make mistakes. I tell my principals that it's okay. We learn. There are so many life lessons in making mistakes. There's so many life lessons in failure. And if we don't give our kids that same room to make those mistakes, and every time they make a mistake, we persecute them, then you create this fixed mindset within them that it's never okay to make mistakes, and they go into a shell. They will never flourish. So we want to make sure that you all know that the same way that we want to treat you, we want you to be able to treat the kids the same way. Make that learning environment one where it's okay for our kids to take risks and to do things differently, because they are different. And the last piece, equity. Equity is a big deal. Many of you will see how equity has played out on your campuses this year. Many of you will see that you have a smaller student-to-teacher ratio, that you have additional counselors, social workers, you have interventionists. Our whole curriculum department is fully developed now. Do you all understand that 2 years ago, I think that was the first time we had hired a science coordinator? That's the reason why we've been getting 0 all these years on our MSTIP 5 performance with science. We haven't had coordinators. We now have a full complement of instructional support. We have zero-based this district. Our budget, we are very healthy with our fund balance. We have a A+ bonds rating. Our district is in a good situation where we don't need anybody to tell us what we need to do. We all in here know what we need to do, and we just got to do it. It's that simple. So I want you all to know that equity is a big deal for us. Our board adopted an equity policy back in July, policy 0100. It's going to guide everything that we do. We're going to apply this equity lens, and we're going to make sure that as we build out our budgets, that to the best of our ability, we level the playing field for every single one of our kids, because our kids show up differently. And this is the thing that I often say to people, and I remember saying this to some folks when we took this equity approach in a previous district that I worked in. Some people were upset. Like, well, why aren't we getting this? Why aren't we getting that? Well, here's what I would say to you. If you feel like you're not getting enough, you're more than welcome to transfer to one of those schools where they getting the extra support. You're more than welcome. Don't have a problem with that, right? Because at the end of the day, each assignment is different. The kids are different. Zip codes do matter, but they shouldn't matter in how we educate them, period. And so we will embrace that equity policy, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to get this done. So here's what I need to say now. Just need to call out a couple of names. Let me start off with Matt Oates. Just a quick question for you, Matt Oates. Matt Oates, are you all in? Where's Louise Hinojosa? Where is she? Louise Hinojosa, are you all in? Do we have any of our custodians in here? Are you all in? Any cafeteria workers in here? Are you all in? Are you all in? Central office employees, are you all in? Administrators, are you all in? And last but not least, teachers, are you all in?